About the most dysfunctional municipality in the country. I didn't ask Dean about that one. It's called Diversification, and it's where Andries has a huge cement factory that he recently acquired from Lafarge. But to give you a little bit of background on why we asked him to come here today, quite apart from the fact that his company is in our BizNews Ricardo portfolio. Just for those who don't know about it, a friend of mine called Ricardo Leal, long-time friend, said, I want to invest in shares, but I don't know how. And I don't want to go and punt on things that people tell me. So how do I do this? How do I invest in shares? And I said, well, we have had a couple of portfolios, but let's start a new one, because the best way to invest in this share market is to invest monthly, put a certain amount every month. And so we started the Ricardo portfolios, one for offshore, one for South Africa. The South African market's been under a lot of pressure, and the Ricardo portfolio ZAR, they're both coming up for a year, is down about 3%. And you can get it's all on BizNews. And the offshore portfolio, the US dollar portfolio, is up 11%, what I saw this morning. Now, the interesting thing there is that from the first day, from the first rand that was put in nearly a year ago, up to the most recent rand, that's grown by 10% in the offshore portfolio. So I think Ricardo is smiling like a Cheshire cat. And there are also, it's a way for those who have not invested in shares in the past to dip your toe in the water. We have a monthly portfolio which is well attended. A few hundred people come along to it now. And as a BizNews Premium member, you are entitled to come to that interactive webinar. But so Andries is going to tell us a little bit about his company because it's part of that portfolio. But more than that, it's just a really, really incredible story. 20 years ago, he merged two quarrying businesses and listed the result on the JSE. The grandson of the founder of one of those businesses is actually in the audience. He came to introduce himself to me, and I will introduce him to Andries after. So isn't that interesting how the tribe spreads? That company called Afrimat is today a 10 billion rand diversified miner, construction materials, iron ore, anthracite, and this Lafarge cement factory, which is making great progress, or last I heard was in Diversification, which is, I think it's Diversification. Anyway, he'll give you the chapter and verse on that one. He's rated by miners as the best miner in South Africa. Now, in a mining country, which we are, that is a very high accolade. And like the predecessor to that title, the colorful, retired Neil Froneman, he's no shrinking violet. As you'll hear from our regular interviews on BizNews, he has a message that South Africa's got no shortage of plans, strategies, or willing investors. But what it lacks is speed and certainty in implementation. And you might just call that what Dean said a moment ago, execution. We like him so much that we remain steadfast investors in his company, in the BizNews Ricardo portfolio, despite a 20% decline in the share price, or what those in asset management call drawdown. Isn't that cute? It's like Eskom calls it load shedding when it's blackouts. The asset management company say it's a drawdown when you have a decline in the value of your portfolio. Yeah, look through the words sometimes. Please welcome the Chief Executive of Afrimat, Andries van Heerden.
This BizNews production is brought to you by Brenthurst Wealth, South Africa's leading boutique wealth manager, trusted to guide families for over 22 years. Invest better with Brenthurst.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Since last night and this morning, we were looking at South Africa from a macro perspective, and we've been reminding ourselves about all the positive opportunities that we have. I would like to take a different angle and look from a micro perspective, from where we were 20 years ago and where we are today. So I'll be sharing with you a little bit about Afrimat, how we started, and I'll take you 20 years back because I do think it's relevant to understand the business. I'll share our growth path with you, how we grew over the years. We've had some challenges, and as we speak, there are some challenges in this country. But what have we done to overcome those challenges? We'll share that with you. We've learned a few lessons along the way, and we'll share that, and then have a bit of a look at where we see the future of our company. So the idea of Afrimat was born in 2004. At that time, we saw a whole lot of laws changing in our country. We saw environmental laws, we saw the labor laws, we saw safety, and we saw the advent of BEE at the time. We also saw that the 2010 World Cup soccer was awarded to us, and that all created a picture of opportunity. I was also working in a very small quarrying company. I'll share with you a little bit about that just now. And we saw that the quarrying industry in South Africa at the time was a fragmented industry, except for the Lafarge, which we recently bought, and AfriSam, which was then called Ulsam. The rest of us were scattered in mostly family-owned businesses around the country. And these smaller businesses really battled to comply with all the changes in the environment and being able to keep up to all the new requirements. And they were desperate for a solution. And the idea was born in September 2004. I had a mentor and a dear friend who I used to bounce the ideas off. He was much older than me. And I remember going to his office in September 2004. And the older people in the audience will remember years ago, you used to get these 3D pictures in magazines. If you looked at it, you didn't see anything. But if you looked long enough, the picture came out. And I said to him, there's something like this. There's a picture in here. I just don't see it, but I know it's here. And that day in September 2004, the idea of what became Afrimat was born, of consolidating at that stage the construction, not the construction industry, the quarrying industry specifically. Now, I worked for a small quarrying company. I'm a mechanical engineer. Started my career in the corporate world. Decided that I wanted to go into smaller businesses and saw myself as a bit of an entrepreneur. And I wanted to get exposure to smaller businesses, so I joined a company called Prima Quarries, worked there, went to my superiors at the time with the idea of what is Afrimat now. Initially, they liked the idea, supported the idea, up to a point where a very clever lawyer in Cape Town said to them, nobody will ever buy shares in a quarrying business. It's not a listable entity. We've seen so many young guys come and ruin family businesses. Fire the guy and go on with your life. So that happened on the 8th of April 2005. I was fired. So I went with my mentor. We then went and we bought a group here in Vryheid called the Lancaster Group, who owned 5 quarries and a few block and brick factories. I moved my family to Vryheid, and we thought that, well, that's what it will be now. In May 2006, I got a phone call out of Worcester again from my colleagues at Prima. I'll cut out the detail, but we got together again and we merged the two businesses. We listed at the height of that listing boom in the early 2000s, mid 2000s, where we were 27.5 times oversubscribed. And I thought this was just amazing. So we then went and we went further with our consolidation. So we had the Lancaster and Prima merger. We bought Malan's quarries in the Western Cape. We bought Denver quarries in the Eastern Cape. We bought Sunshine Crushers in Dundee. We bought Blue Platinum quarries in Gauteng. But the clouds were packing. I remember one of my colleagues came to me in 2007 and said the National Credit Act is going to create a lot of turmoil in the construction industry, which it did. Unfortunately, it gave us enough time to reposition the business at the time to focus a little bit more on infrastructure, and especially with Medupi and Kusile and the Gauteng freeways, we managed to do a lot of material supply to those contracts. But then, around about 2010, we realized that the construction industry was in for a tough time. So we then decided to diversify a little bit, stay close to our knitting, which was open pit mining, but move a little bit. And we started into investing in what we call the industrial minerals, which is basically limestone and dolomite mines. So we bought Glen Douglas from Exxaro, and this was a critical deal because that was the first business that was really fundamentally a good business that was really badly managed. And that was the first turnaround that we had to do, and it later became a core skill of our business. We also bought InfraSource, another turnaround. It was a listed company on the verge of bankruptcy, and we turned that around. And we bought Cape Lime, which was a very healthy business. And that then formed our industrial minerals businesses. Went well roughly until in the mid-2010s, around 2015, we realized the Zuma era is really getting to the country. The whole state capture thing is really becoming real. And we needed to get a dollar-based income. So we then went and we bought our first iron ore mine. We bought it out of business rescue. The mine was standing at the time. Another turnaround that we had to do. It was actually called Dero at the time. We changed the name because the workers actually asked us, can we change the name because Dero has got such a bad vibe to it. So we changed the name to Demaneng, one of the greatest deals we ever did. We bought that iron ore mine just at the right time, and it was pure blessing. We didn't know that the iron ore price was going to do what it did. But we then entered iron ore. After that, we bought a small group of companies called Koza Mines, which was also iron ore mines. With that came a supply agreement to ArcelorMittal, which is also very good for us. And we also had access to manganese then. In 2020, we bought in Nkomati anthracite mine, also out of business rescue. And that then completed our bulk commodities portfolio, which is iron ore, manganese, and anthracite. Around about 2020, just after 2020, we realized that we also needed to think about where are things going in the world. And we then acquired a mine called Glenover, which is, in our view, a critical minerals business. It has a very interesting deposit where the iron phosphate is a very useful raw material to the battery minerals industry, and the rare earth elements there is well known to everyone that rare earth is a sought after mineral, and that is what we have in Glenover. And then in 2023, 24, around about there, Lafarge South Africa was in trouble. The European owners wanted to sell the business, and we did a deal and we bought the business. And Alec, we didn't buy it for the cement. The cement is a small part of it, but it has the best quarries in South Africa.
Okay.
And we bought it for the quarries. And it's interesting, those of you that are interested can go and look in the world. There are companies like Vulcan and Martin Marietta and CRH and a few companies like that have built business cases around quarries because you have a very interesting moat around a quarry because you have a relatively heavy, low-value product, which gives you a very definite moat if you are well situated. And that was why we bought Lafarge, but we also got the cement business, and we'll get to that. Fly ash business was incorporated in that. That is used as a cement extender, and it is something that we also enjoyed having. The business was in a terrible state. You want to talk about state capture. on a corporate level, that's what happened there. We literally fired one person per day for about 3 months in a row on corruption, theft, dishonesty. You just couldn't believe it. So we had to change that culture and turn it around. And I can say to you that the quarries are now fully integrated and they are performing very, very well and making this acquisition an exceptionally good acquisition. We're still battling a little bit with the cement. The cement business is turned around. Operationally, is doing very well. But the cement industry, and I was really interested to hear what the minister said just now, because that is what we need. The cement industry in South Africa is in a difficult position. If you don't have a cement factory in the Western Cape or in Zimbabwe, you are going to battle to make a living in cement. But we've turned it around. It is not 100% profitable yet, but it's doing a lot better. So where Afrimat is today is we consider ourselves as a mid-tier mining company. So we don't play in the league of a Neil Froneman. We try to go for those smaller assets that are too big for a small individual, but too small for the major companies. And we found a very nice niche for ourselves there. We also found that the best value in acquisitions are where you can find a good asset like Lafarge. It was badly managed. You can get it for a good price, put in really good people, turn it around. The word that's been used this morning is execution. That is what you must get right. And that creates value. Until recently, I was very proud to give the compound average growth rate in our after-tax profits. At the moment, as we're not exactly there. We're busy fixing that again. But our compound average growth rate in revenue since the day we listed until today is 18% per year. So the business has consistently been growing, giving us that, and we have a very good revenue base now, and it's really about extracting the full value. Now, along the line, we had some interesting challenges. In 2007, I touched on that just now, the National Credit Act, which actually started the decline in the construction boom that we had those days. And then the peak in 2008 with the global financial crisis. Now, our share price was trading at 10.50 Rand a share before the crisis started, and it bottomed at 1.60 Rand. And it took us 6 years to recover back to 10 Rand again. So it was a tough time, but as Rassie, as we heard, Rassie says South Africans are tough. So we were there. 2010, the construction slowdown really challenged us. 2015, the state capture. 2020, COVID. It's interesting. The COVID period was a period where we were fortunate enough that we could pay our people in full over that time. And it's amazing the goodwill that brought from people. And I wish I had some time to share some of the stories that we had, because that is really what is to me, what is positive about this business is how we could have made differences in lives of people that were in businesses that were in trouble, people that were, in the COVID period, we could actually do something for our people. Right now, the big challenge in South Africa is the deindustrialization. Interestingly enough, in spite of some of the clever keyboard warriors, it's not the Lafarge business that's actually put pressure on our business. It's actually the bulk commodities business. The iron ore price in Rand terms, because of the Rand strengthening, the iron ore price internationally coming down, and most importantly, the shipping rates that's gone up so much. We've seen more than a 30% decline in the iron ore price at mine gate. We had the ferrochrome smelters shutting down almost unexpectedly. I was sharing with my wife just now, it's almost exactly a year ago on the 15th of August when a colleague of mine contacted me when I was on leave, and he gave me the shocking news that the ferrochrome smelters are shutting down. They're not starting up again, and we are supplying them. We were a sole supplier to Glencore at the time. So the whole deindustrialization of South Africa is a massive problem. Whether that is glass, cement, steel, that is the challenge at the moment, and there's some interesting things that we can do about that. So what are we doing? So first of all, the aggregates business is doing exceptionally well, and we are getting the full value of that acquisition that we did, and that is really helping. On the iron ore side, we have just acquired a very good asset in the Northern Cape that is a lower cost asset to bring down R10bn that I touched on just now is close to being mined out. And this is a very good asset with direct shipping or as an outcrop, and it's also, so the cost is extra low. But we've also managed to get ourselves on, because many of you will know that the iron ore export line is limited in capacity. And we have an allocation there, but we managed to get additional exports through the GFB line, which is something that's not normally done. And my colleagues have been very, very innovative in how to get that right economically. We are also working very hard with Transnet on the new Oryx allocations for 2028. On the manganese side, we are ramping our operations up, and we've just been awarded what they call the MECA 3 allocation for about 240,000 tons per year. And on the cement side, the business is doing better, but we are looking at international, speaking to international parties about some strategic alternatives to do that. We're also focusing on our balance sheet. The balance sheet after the acquisitions is a little bit weaker than we would like it. And we are focusing, and I actually just had a phone call from a colleague this morning on the breakfast giving me some good news on we monitor this on a weekly basis, and he gave me some good news. And we are driving a common focus on performance and operational efficiency. So what we've learned is to remain strategically vigilant. We've learned how important a healthy company culture is, referring to what Lafarge was like. And on leadership, the book by Kouzes and Posner, The Leadership Challenge, has 5 pillars: model the way, inspire a shared vision, enable others to act, challenge the process, and inspire the heart. Those 5 pillars is really the cornerstones of our culture and how we manage our business. And I can tell you the quality of people that we've managed to get into the business is really exceptional and making a massive difference. So where are we going from here? I've got about 2 minutes left, so I endorse what's been said this morning about opportunities. You know, we actually have a small team of people whose only job it is to evaluate opportunities. They have no production responsibilities. And the quality of opportunities that we see in this country is just enormous. For instance, one of the opportunities, and I'm not saying we're going to get involved, but it's an opportunity like people wanting to build small blast furnaces to manufacture pig iron, which is a raw material being used by the latest technology in steel making in Europe. And the market for that just seems extremely strong. That creates an additional market for our iron ore, and it's a substitute for ArcelorMittal, which is in dire straits. We're looking at some geographic expansions. There's some interesting opportunities in Namibia, for instance, at the moment. We might even add another critical mineral to our portfolio if that all checks out in future. And we are also rationalizing our portfolio. So we have disposed of many of our block and brick factories. That's a very, very difficult industry to make good returns on. It's much better suited in smaller organizations where that works. And so we've done that. We're looking at the cement business, and we're looking at a few other things. So all in all, Afrimat is a company where we try to be an example of what can be done when you have a healthy culture, healthy values, built on solid ethical values, and good people. And that, as I said in the beginning, from the micro side, is what we are trying to contribute to a country that we all truly love. Thank you very much.
This BizNews production is brought to you by Brenthurst Wealth, A Mauritian trust offers a powerful solution for global estate planning. Invest better with Brenthurst. Start your day a step ahead. BizNews Insider. It delivers the business stories that matter every morning straight to your inbox, sharp, fast, and free. Subscribe now.